Good afternoon and welcome to another installment of the small print of the law of attraction. Maybe just beginning with a deep breath. And let's invite a check-in. I'm Michael. I'm in the country today. My keyword is earth. I feel very grounded. Sarah, you want to check in? How are you doing today?
Sure. I'm Sarah, and I feel very comfortable, which is weird.
Check in, graciously navigating.
How you doing today, Anna?
I feel a bit sensitive.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah. Susie, what's new? How are you?
I'm Susie, and I'm feeling very welcomed and embraced.
Mahaline Louie.
I am shockingly transformed.
Wow. Amazing grace.
Mm-hmm.
So just a quick comment, and then you take us forward, Maha.
Perfect.
Last week we looked at the radical idea that there might just be a language that has codes that help us to understand why we don't get what we say we want. And part of the beauty and the weirdness of that idea is that there could be a conscious way to work with paradox and to work with conflict. And that is demonstrated in the first word of the Bible. And it shows up archetypally as universal patterns, such as the pattern of fire and water that are at odds with one another and consummate one another. Similarly with earth and air. And so this week we're going to complete introducing the code to enough. And Maha, it's over. That's all I have on it. It is over to you.
Wait. So what I'd like to add is a comprehension that is interestingly not part of the love that has no opposite, which speaks of the bearing of element. And this comprehension is about the paradox, which I call the love paradox. And it's a love paradox because I am love. So since it is my nature to be love, why do I struggle so much in accepting what comes to me? What is it that I can't go beyond the judgment of the fight of fire and water and actually surrender into how much the heart loves the soul? Because yes, we spoke in terms of archetype, and if we start from the bottom up, we have 6 elements, and what's highlighted here is Hashemayim, the heaven, which in Hebrew, the word that is translated as the heaven also means fire, water. So fire, water if we translate that into instrument of knowledge, then fire is that which animates the heart, and water is that which animates the soul. Anna, do you track that?
What was the question?
Do you track how fire animates the heart and water animates the soul? Do you follow that?
Yeah, I feel that is true.
Okay. So then, what we looked at is we start with elementals. In the beginning, God created the pairing of elements, because the heaven is really fire, water, and the earth is really air, earth in Hebrew. So God created the pairing of elements. And the pair water, fire, which are opposite in traditional Chinese medicine, become the opposite of soul and heart. And what that means is, unless we hear and obey our heart, then the soul feels exiled into the lower dimension of the tree. And for the soul to feel the love of the heart, it has to come back into full obedience. And then it feels how loving the heart, which we could also call the heart God, is and has been. So from the solid code, we get an instrument of knowledge. From the water, we get the soul. From an instrument of knowledge, we get a conscious archetype. From the heart, we get the leader. That's what leaders' heart are. We can feel the heart, and that's why we take their leadership. Visionary, we can feel their soul. Think of Michelangelo, think of Beethoven, think of, you feel the soul of a visionary, just like you connect to the heart of a leader. And from this conscious archetype comes a desire. The desire of the leader is transformation. That's what the heart does, is transformation device. The desire of the visionary is to go beyond shame, and the way to do that is transparency. That's the desire of the visionary. So this is this is the basic, the foundation of the created six. Just like we looked at for fire, water, we did the exact same process with air and earth. So from the brown earth comes the instrument of the body. From the body comes the officer, the law. From the officer comes the desire for sacredness. Same, from air metal comes the mind. From the mind comes the engineer. From the engineer comes the desire for freedom. And what is not free in us is the ability to go beyond our judgment and be free of the indoctrination that we received. It is a mental issue. It is a mental problem. Okay, so this is the foundation of the created six. Again, the first word of the Bible can be read as Bereshit, for in the beginning, or Barashit, for created six. When we think geometrically, created six makes all sorts of sense. When we think in terms of pairing of elements, it also makes complete sense. Because if we take the three main cosmology that this earth has, then we realize that there's Hinduism adds ether and Taoism adds wood. But not what I wanted to do. So there was one more thing that we looked at is, oh, here's the love paradox. That's, okay. One more thing where those two letters that happen to be a word, a grammatical particle that is untranslated and untranslatable in the Hebrew Bible, and it precedes a direct object. So the heaven is a direct object of the word created, so is the earth. So it's being given twice. And this particle is formed by the first and the last, the first Hebrew letter, the last. So in one direction, it could mean communication, because it's the whole alphabet. In the other, it's the cell, forms the word ha for cell. And it brings us right back to communication is not what is said and done, it is the result of what is said and done.
Maha.
Yeah.
One comment or just something that has been huge value to me on something that appears to be just a grammatical rule, the idea of a direct object and the description of the logos, Aleph and Toph, as being a word. That's really cool. What has always stuck out for me is the reminder, especially in the way it's placed in this first phrase in Genesis 1:1. It's a reminder not to objectify the heavens and not to objectify the earth. And if I look at my own indoctrination being brought up and, religious construct, family construct, career construct, all of that, was virtually everything appears to be an object. And this Aleph Toph is a hint into the magical world of language that's alive and not objectified.
Lovely. Thank you, Michael. So that's how we arrived at the poetic transmission of in the beginning, God created. Another error. So God, who is created six, created the logos of the love paradox and the arrows of the body, the mind-body connection. So I'm sure I'll correct this page and will update it so that it would be congruent. In the beginning, God created the logos of the love paradox and the arrows of the mind-body connection. And when I get that the heart loves me, there is no more loneliness. And when there is no more loneliness, there's no more lack. And when there's no more lack, I am whole. And when I am whole, I'm in connection to the entirety of the field, where all is already created. Okay. So that's how important this logos of the love paradox is, and the errors of the mind-body connection. Because if I want to heal, if there's something with my body that is off, I must start with the love paradox. I must start by being a whole. Then the mind-body connection shifts out of the wholeness that I experience. But if I am a soul, a lost soul in ego Egypt, the mind-body connection is going to reflect that. So that's how I, this is the living word. It's not part of the love that has no opposite. But it's going to be part of the next book, and it's part of this book now. So from that perspective, let's move into a new page, something that we had not seen last week. And Sarah, Anna, Sarah, you're not in mute. Would you like to take us through this?
Sure. Hold on 1 second. I just want to plug my. There we go. On ingenues or ingenues. The degree of freedom from unwanted thoughts and the degree of concentration on a single thought are the measures to gauge spiritual progress. When there are thoughts, it is a distraction. When there are no thoughts, it is a meditation. Sri Ramana Maharshi.
Yes. So for now, skip the table. We're going to look at it in the words and then we'll understand it better. Okay.
Okay. The couple of twin ingenues, or how do you pronounce that? Ingeniuses?
That's it. Ingenuous.
Ingenues
Mhm.
is formed by greed. Ingenue and grace ingenue.
Yeah.
Just
You see them in the tables?
I do.
Very good.
Just as ether and wood form the third pair of elements next to fire, water, air, and earth.
Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
From ether, I derive the instrument of the voice, and from the voice, the archetype of greed, ingenue.
All right. So let's stop here for just a moment. I have to sense that you can feel how from the red fire comes the heart, and how from the heart comes the leader. You follow that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Anna, you follow that too. Okay. So now we're shifting into, speaking of shifting, a shifty element, ether, a dicey element. You know, in Hinduism, it's called Akasha. This is where all the records are. The Akashic records.
Did you use the word dicey? D-I-C-E?
Why?
Why?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to describe.
Yeah. It's nothing and everything. It's
Beyond
empty and
space
full.
and time. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So from ether comes the instrument of voice. Can you see how that would work?
Yes.
Okay. Like you may be with a friend and there may be this love-hate relationship. We don't always know that the heart loves the soul. I don't certainly always know that. So my voice will tell the person that listens to me what kind of ether I'm tapping into. Am I into anger, hatred, like in the demonic ether? Or am I into the inspiring ether? Which part of ether am I coming from? That's going to sound in the vibration and the frequency of my voice.
Got it.
Okay, and how does that resonate too? You're on mute.
A little bit, but I'm not exactly following.
Okay, so when you hear someone, can you not hear that there are different voices for the same person?
Different voices, how? Like,
Well, do you ever think tone, change the tone of your voice?
yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm speaking of right now.
Okay.
Those different tones are given by the element of ether.
Yes.
Does that resonate now?
Yes.
Very good. And now, then from the voice comes the archetype of greed, ingenue. So if Sarah, if you would continue reading here.
On the note of being ingenious, can I become so candid with my greed, so innocent and free from deception, that I would meet greed ingenue?
Yes.
I don't know if I
So
completely
the
understand that.
word ingenuous means candid, innocent, free of agenda. That's what ingenuous means. There's no artifice. There's no masks. There's no hidden agendas.
The simple way I think of this particular archetype is bring it on. I really want to see my greed. I really want to feel it. I really want to notice it. And I really want to understand it.
Yeah. And
Instead
the
of
more
running
I
from the greed, I invite
understand
it.
the more I understand it, the more it becomes ingenuous. The less I understand it, the more I feel guilt. I shouldn't have said that. Have you ever had that thought? I shouldn't have said that. It's because there was an agenda. I wanted to get his attention. I wanted her money. I wanted to hurt that person. That's greed. Now, if I, as Michael said, invite it again and again and again, there's a point where it's like, here it is. And then I become ingenuous with it, candid. I'm no longer feeling pangs of guilt because I spoke too much or not enough, or because I said the wrong thing, or because I didn't say the right thing. Our voice. And all connected to how familiar, how connected, how honest am I willing to become with my hidden agenda, with what motivates me, which I pretend is not here. Me greed, no. I live by grace alone. I have no greed. Think again, you're on planet Earth. Okay.
So did, for example, helping somebody and then asking yourself, did I really want to help them, or am I gaining something back from that?
There you go. You nailed it. You see, the question itself means that it wasn't pure service. If not, you wouldn't ask the question.
Yes.
Very good. That's right on.
So then if I become aware of my own motives, then what?
Then I become candid. Look at me wanting that. Isn't that funny?
And
As
then
if I
people-
can control it.
And then people can hear me, not until. Because what happens is I'm speaking from an agenda that I don't want to see, don't want to feel. And therefore the greed continues to have sway.
How, Michael? Like why I don't want to see and I don't want to feel. How does that connect to
Well,
that?
well, if I really invite the greed, as Maha was speaking, if I really invite it, and I really, I mean, really decide to get candid with it, I will not tolerate errors in myself. And therefore, I will transform. And I will notice that I show up resonating with a different quality of communication. I will notice that by my result. When I leave, I won't have questions about whether I overspoke or underspoke.
So, Sarah, please continue.
If so, I will naturally come into the desire for aloneness.
Isn't that interesting? The very fact to befriend my greed is what grants me aloneness, is what fulfills the desire for being 100% comfortable being alone. As long as I am lonely,
As long as what?
I am lonely and struggle with being alone. As long as this is my reality, I have not fully embraced my greed.
Mm.
And now I'm in a rescue fantasy because you're going to resolve my greed for me. You're going to help me feel like I'm not lost and lonely in this big world. You're going to love me.
So if I have a desire for aloneness, then that means that I have not met greed candidly.
Yes.
Will you explain one more time why?
Because I'm still attempting to control the out there. You see, that's what greed is. It's power over the out there.
I just haven't made the connection in my brain. How does that work?
So I am contaminated by greed. I want you to give me your attention. Okay, that's great. I'm going to act out so that I will get your attention. Okay, that means that I need you to save me. It's not, I want your attention. The truth is, I want my attention. But as long as I'm making you responsible for giving me the quota of attention I need, I have not taken responsibility for my greed, for fulfilling my own desire. And because I cannot fulfill my own desire, then I'm stuck in greed.
And it's important to note that the desire for aloneness is not the same as the resistance of loneliness.
Yeah.
What we're speaking into is that in order to understand my greed, that's me and me. That has nothing to do with you. I need to be alone with me, if only to understand why I think I need you.
Yeah. So there's no one out there. And that's the paradox of ether. There's no one in it, and there's everyone in it. So that's the part that can get confusing. Okay. So let's move into wood, Sarah.
From wood, I derive the instrument of the spirit, and from the spirit, the archetype grace ingenue.
Yeah. So that one is a little bit easier to understand. You just need to take a walk into nature. That's wood. When you're surrounded by nature, by trees, by plants, when you have flower in your environment, when there's all this vegetation that gives itself selflessly and shows us what being unconditional is all about, we naturally move into grace. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So notice that the ingenue can be ingenuous, which means candid, innocent, free from deception, or ingenious, which is a little bit more known, that ingenuous. So please continue.
It's interesting. I'm not getting what those two opposites are.
Do you understand that ingenuous, the definition is candid? That's as simple as that.
Okay.
Okay. Ingenious means innovative. It's really not complicated.
Or
Okay.
spoken, innovative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Original, inventive.
Genius. It's like when you express yourself, it's like you're genius. And
Got
each
it.
of us has a genius that is waiting. And in this case, grace ingenue is the way in which we access genius.
Okay.
And you just need to go to a dictionary and
Yeah,
go.
I looked it up, but my brain works a little funny and I sometimes go to the opposite. So I'm a little dyslexic in this moment of being like, I'll get it, but in this moment it's flipping.
I just want to say something briefly.
Sure.
I struggled with this for a long time, and sometimes, like you, Sarah, I have like, okay, I get confused, and I go back to disingenuous as
Okay.
kind of like a balance. It ballasts me. I say, okay, when I'm disingenuous, I'm not only not genius, but I'm not innocent. I'm disingenuous. I'm hiding. I've got a mask. I'm running a program. I'm projecting a bunch of my shit onto other people or situations when I'm disingenuous. So for me, that's a helpful filter for me when I find myself struggling with some of the
Got
languaging.
it. That actually does help. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
welcome.
very good. Thank you, Danielle. On the note of the living word, I'm just noticing that the difference between ingenuous and ingenious is the difference between you and I.
Yeah.
So when I'm in grade, it's all about you. When I'm in grace, I am spirit.
Mm. That's really helpful. That's good.
Lovely. So read again the whole
Okay.
thing about wood.
Sure. From wood, I derive the instrument of the spirit, and from spirit, the archetype of grace ingenue. On the note of being ingenious, can I become so innovating, original, and inventive that I would meet grace ingenue? If so, I will naturally come into the desire for consciousness.
Does that resonate?
Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
Well, the other thing that's important to remember is that's the exact opposite of ignoring the unconscious.
And just this tiny note, which is a repeat, but we'll never say it enough. So please.
Note, the next page unfolds the impact on my creativity as I shift from the God name Elohim, the power of synchronicity that is created 6, into the God named Yahweh Elohim, the power of history that adds the influence of the 4-lettered name.
So power of history is being stuck into a time loop, doing the same thing, expecting different results.